Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Helen Rincon. I am part of the developer marketing team here at Atlassian and your host for today. Thank you for joining the Q2 installment of the Forge Roadmap webinar. We're really excited to have you with us today. The purpose of this webinar is to share what we have shipped over the last quarter and also what we have coming up in the pipeline soon for Forge. As always, before we begin, I do want to run through how you can participate and catch up on anything that you may miss. The team is coming to you live today, minus one recorded presentation, but the presentation will be interactive. If you have a question at any point during the presentation, please feel free to drop it in the Q&A widget in Zoom. We'll save all the questions until the end and get through as many as we have time for. In some cases, questions require a little more research to properly answer, so if we aren't able to get to your question live, please post it in the developer community and we'll address the question afterwards. So for today's opening remarks, we're starting things off with Adarsh, who is the head of product for Forge, and the focus will be on a recent SOC 2 report and also the path ahead with Forge. After that, we'll go into the roadmap updates and end things with some live Q&A. We do have a pretty packed agenda today, so we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. But some of the topics that we'll be covering today include the latest on the Connect to Forge migration path, our new Runs on Atlassian badge, Forge containers, government cloud, developer console updates, SQL storage, and a whole bunch of other information. So this is our required disclaimer slide. The timeline we share today does reflect our current investments in Forge, and it's an estimate to the best of our ability. So please note that these are forward-looking statements and features and timelines are subject to change. And with that, I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker, Adarsh.
Thanks, Helen. Hi, everyone. I'm Adarsh. I'm the head of product for Forge. I can't believe it's already half of the year now that we are talking about a lot of things about Forge. So before we get into the roadmap updates, I want to share a few things that are top of my mind and observations just to give you a picture on where we are heading. I want to start by sharing a report that just came out, the study of how Forge helps developers to achieve SOC 2. A while back, Atlassian ran a research study to understand how partners are thinking about compliance for their marketplace apps. We asked them which major compliance for market frameworks were relevant to their businesses. What are they hearing from their customers? It could be possible during sale calls or during support. And where they felt they needed to invest the most in. SOC 2 was the third most commonly cited compliance that the partners were worried about after GDPR and data residency. In fact, 78% said SOC 2 was very important for them to get that certified in order to serve their customers. And partners also told us that they're actively pursuing SOC 2. 72% either currently support it or we're intending to support it in the future. But we also know it's not simple, right? Partners wear a lot of hats, building features, running a business, support, sales. There are many things that the partners do. And it's not surprising that time and resources were the most common reasons why partners actually struggle to achieve some of these compliances. Sometimes it can mean having to choose between compliance and improving the product or supporting your customers who's migrating from server to cloud, etc. And it's a complex process, all this compliance. Not possessing the right specialized knowledge was another big barrier the partners faced when it comes to compliance. We had a theory for a long time that Forge would help with SOC 2 because the platform itself is SOC 2 compliance. And of course, this doesn't mean that apps built on Forge will automatically be SOC 2 compliant, but Forge itself is SOC 2 compliant, which means there are some benefits that the platform should pass on to our partners who are building on Forge. But even though we have heard anecdotally from partners that Forge helped with SOC 2, we had not had a good study to actually point people to on how it helps to get some of the SOC 2 controls verified. Many of you probably are familiar with Vanta. They are experts in helping software products to get compliance, and they help them to navigate the whole process end to end. They recently did a detailed investigation on Forge to uncover just how many controls that Forge takes care out of the box. SOC 2 doesn't just deal with technical details. It also looks at org-wide practices like whether the access to workspace is secured, how you've done background checks when you're hiring, and those are the things Forge will not help with. But it does help with quite a lot of other things. So in fact, Vanta found that 30% of SOC 2 controls can be addressed just by using Forge. Because behind the scenes, our platform is doing a number of things that help with SOC 2. The practices addresses controls that access vulnerability, scans that we do on to ensure that if there's something that we want to flag it to our partners. Access control, ensuring access to systems is restricted to authorized users, and we and configure strict password policies that kind of keep up to date with the Atlassian software processes. Physical security and including the network security, where using TLS 1.2 or higher to encrypt data in transit. Not just that, also about monitoring and alerting and data security and availability. So it's important to note that SOC 2 control inheritance only applies to data that is stored on Forge. When data goes outside Forge boundaries, the developer becomes responsible to establish your own controls. So for example, a runs on Atlassian app, which uses only Forge compute and storage and limits data egress, would inherit these controls, while a Forge remote app would not. This is one way that runs on Atlassian benefits not just customers, but also provides the benefits for our partners. We have released documentation on the study, which you can find here. It maps each of the controls areas to specific SOC 2 controls to help you use Forge to your advantage when you are completing your audit the next time. Now I want to shift gears to talk about some of the longer term investments Atlassian is making. This has been a year of major transformation, and we know that this kind of change isn't always easy. We introduced teamwork collections, system of work. We also introduced new deployment options in the cloud, just to name a few. Now, more than ever, it is important that we continue to work together to help our shared customers succeed. Now, let's talk about a few of those big changes, which we'll cover in depth during this webinar. Just last month, Runs on Atlassian officially went GA, and we're already seeing over 600 apps now carrying this badge. And that numbers keeps growing. This launch was powered by an incredible effort from all of our partners. So thank you so much for jumping in. And for the first time, customers can easily find apps that fully run on Forge. And this has been one of the top asks from our enterprise customers. And it's exciting to finally give them what they've been waiting for. Next, let's talk about pricing. Back in January, we shared our initial thinking around Forge pricing. Soon, we'll be announcing the official pricing details in the developer community. Our goal is to create a sustainable economical model for Forge, one that enables us to keep investing in the platform. This means we can continue to deliver more powerful capabilities, a better performance, and a stronger security baked right into the core of Forge. As we previously stated, Forge apps will get a generous free tier for Alliance, and developers only pay for what they use above that threshold. And finally, we know migrating from Connect to Forge is on many of the partners' top of mind item now. And some of you may already be in that journey. Migrations can be challenging, there's no doubt about that. But this is a necessary and important change that we want to ensure that you all go through in order to be using the latest platform that we are providing you for you to use. All the innovation that is coming on the latest platform, Forge. We recently shipped updates that remove some of the highest priority blockers, and will continue to support you in moving your apps from Connect to Forge. These changes aren't easy, but they're critical to our future. Atlassian isn't the same company we were 10 years ago. We are transformed into an interconnected platform that powers collaboration not just in IT teams, but for everywhere work happens. That unlocks a massive opportunity for us and for all our partners. So what does this look like? As our platform evolves, we are surfacing more extensible areas where apps can add value, like automations. Apps will link across different contexts, Jira, Confluence, and others, multiplying the value apps can provide to our customers. Second, we are continuing to raise the bar on trust. So we meet the customer's expectations where they want the platform to be, and is never a trade-off they need to think about between security and data governance. With that, we introducing runs on Atlassian, different deployment options like isolated cloud and government cloud. And third, we're shipping capabilities that let apps carve out deep areas of specialization. Teamwork Graph and agents allow our customers to shape the system of work to fit their needs in their industry. There's so much opportunity ahead of us, and it's a journey we all have to go together. You will hear more from our team on the progress we are making across the board. With that, I'll hand it back to Helen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adarsh. That was super insightful. So before we move into the roadmap portion of the webinar, there's one more thing I want to share with you guys. Some of you have actually already completed Forge Quest, and if you have, congratulations. But for those of you who haven't, no worries. There's still time for you to get in on the fun. Forge Quest is a self-paced skills challenge that we recently launched, and it allows you to build real functioning apps using Atlassian's Forge platform, all while earning badges on the developer community and scoring limited edition swag along the way. And I did say limited edition swag. So there are multiple levels, giving everyone from beginners to more seasoned developers a practical way to level up their Forge skills. And the best thing is that you can complete it in a single afternoon. So if you or your team are looking for a new rewarding challenge that only takes a few hours, you definitely want to give Forge Quest a try. You will have until June 30th to complete it and claim your limited edition swag. We'll drop the link in the chat for you to go and check it out. All right, with that, we'll get into the roadmap section. I'm going to hand it over to Adam Moore to kick us off.
All right. Thank you, Helen, and hi everyone. As Adash mentioned, one of the big changes coming is Forge pricing, and I'm sure it's on everyone's mind. So yeah, let's kick off with that. Firstly, if you only remember one thing from this webinar, it should be that 1st of January 2026, so this coming New Year's Day, is when pricing for Forge will kick into gear. As a That's a good reminder when you copy and paste your slides from somewhere else. Check if they've got animations. But anyway, as Adash mentioned, even after the 1st of Jan, there's still going to be a generous free tier on all our capabilities. We still want to see adoption and innovation on Forge. But if you have a larger app or you've got a larger install base, now might be the time to start looking at your usage and sort of seeing what you can optimize. So these 4 capabilities are going to be subject to pricing once the free threshold is reached. Being functions, key value store, SQL, and logs. There'll also potentially be new capabilities coming online that you'll hear later about in this webinar, such as Forge containers, that will also be subject to Forge pricing. But with those new capabilities, we'll be sharing details on pricing as those as those features move through the release phases, into preview and GA. And so let's take a look at a high-level rollout for how the next 6 months will go. I'm just going to give the high-level overview now, and I'll pass to Chandana later to sort of go into more detail. But as Adash mentioned, very soon we'll be sharing the final pricing details for all the current Forge capabilities, so functions, KVS, SQL, and logs. We shared that range earlier in the year as guidance, but we know you want to lock in those actual numbers. Along with that announcement, we will be also releasing a new pricing estimator to help you work out what your costs are going to be. So anyone, even if you're still on Connect, can try and plug your usage into that and get an idea for the costs. But also, for those who already have their apps running on Forge, we'll be enhancing the usage dashboard in the developer console so that you'll be able to see, based on what your consumption is now, what that is going to cost you once pricing kicks in. And so also another good reason to move your storage and compute to Forge now so that you can start optimizing that while Atlassian still foots the whole bill. Later on, next quarter, we'll also be introducing the idea or concept of developer spaces, which is how you'll be able to group your apps together into one sort of account for billing and invoicing purposes. So you'll be able to get set up well before monetization kicks in. And then, of course, 1st of Jan, that's when your usage will start counting towards billing, and the first invoices will come in arrears in February. And so that's it from me for now. Stay tuned for Chandana later to go into these in a bit more detail. But for now, I'll pass to Aggie to talk runs on Atlassian.
Thanks, Adam. Hi, everyone. I'm Agi Ignatova, Senior PM for Ecosystem Platform, and today I will be sharing the latest on runs on Atlassian. As most of you are aware, the Runs on Atlassian batch has been fully rolled out on the marketplace about 4 weeks ago. Customers seeking to accelerate app approvals can now conveniently choose apps developed on Atlassian platform. These apps, which comply with Runs on Atlassian eligibility criteria, are specifically designed to retain data within Atlassian Cloud, support data residency, and provide controls over data egress. Admins can access a global diagnostic control available through admin.atlassian.com. This feature enables admins to set the default sharing status for logs and analytics for future installations. Additionally, this control can be accessed via the installation consent screen, allowing customers the option to disable logs and analytics prior to installing an app. This is important to know that this setting only applies to future installations. It does not retroactively affect consent already given for existing installations. Furthermore, there is an additional control that operates on a per app basis, providing granular management for each Forge app installation. This allows customers to specify whenever they wish to disable access to analytics for individual apps. Slide, please. We understand that many of you are eagerly anticipating updates on the evolution of the Runs on Atlassian program. Specifically, there are questions regarding the eligibility of apps with customer-defined egress, those that offer exposed REST APIs, and those with optional egress for the Runs on Atlassian batch. Please know that we are currently conducting customer research, which will guide us through any future decisions. We strive to provide ample notice regarding any changes to the program. And now I'm going to hand over to Sean, who's going to talk about Connect migration.
Exactly. Hi, everyone. I'm Sean. I'm a senior product manager in our ecosystem team, and I'll be sharing some updates on our progression in supporting you in your migration from Connect to Forge. So we've progressed the update path from Connect to Forge in recent months. We've gotten all to the way where you can go all the way from Connect to Runs on Atlassian without a customer even having to press the update button, as long as you don't elevate your app's permissions. So there's a few things that have made this possible. The first one, which you may be familiar with, is our opt-in minor updates capability. So when you're moving from Connect to Forge, you can submit a request ticket and all of your existing customers on your most recent Connect version will migrate to Forge over 96 hours. In the coming months, this will become the default behavior, so you won't need to opt in anymore, and we'll provide more updates within the changelog. But for now, if you're moving from Connect to Forge and you want to bring all your customers across, you can migrate them along through this opt-in process. Once you're on Forge, you're probably wondering how you bring people across all of your major versions. We recently released the Forge bulk upgrade command in the CLI. And what this does is it lets you look at previous major versions and assess which major versions you can move those customers to. And similarly, this will update those customers in the background. And it looks at the same inherited rules and permissions about scope inheritance that we have for Connect to Forge. We also recently launched, just last week actually, backend user impersonation support for Forge. So this means that anybody who is trying to make offline requests on behalf of users, whether it was from Forge functions, so that included things like async events or events that were triggered from the Forge platform or from products, can now impersonate a user through that. You can also utilize this with Forge remotes. So if you utilize an offline access through Forge remotes, you can impersonate users in a similar way that you could on Connect. To get started with this, you'll need to update your Forge manifest to define which scopes you want to use for impersonation. And then it's as simple in Forge as extending the as-user method with an optional property, using the user ID, or hitting a GraphQL API from your remote, and you're going to be able to get that token and act in a similar way. And finally, for those who have been following all the RFCs which have been posted on our developer community, we're working towards a lot of different ways to
create dynamic modules, events, and configurable egress and remotes in the Forge platform. And these are going to unlock new ways and different ways to build your app. So for example, this will mean that you'll be able to subscribe to product events which you need rather than having to subscribe up front and then filter them out. It'll also help you build more trusted apps. So you can egress when specific features are enabled or disabled, or enable egress when a customer explicitly needs it for a purpose or something that they're doing in the app. It also helps you to integrate securely with backend services, meaning that if you're using middleware to route to different domains that customers may have, you'll be able to interact with them directly by creating a configurable remote that the customer can define and enter. So these are on the community at the moment under RFC 94 and 96, and I think they're still open for comment for a very short amount of time, but you can jump in there and have a little bit more of a look of what we're building here. Changing gears quickly, just wanted to touch on Forge support for the Atlassian Government Cloud. So to date, we have had around about 40 apps that have enabled support for AGC. And there's more and more apps being added every week. So for everyone who's taken the journey to bring their Connect on Forge app or their Forge app to this, a big thank you. It's really great to see a healthy and vibrant marketplace growing for our government customers. If you're interested in participating, you can visit the link here or the link in the chat. It shows you how to get involved, how to bring your Forge app into this environment, or how to bring your Connect app into Forge and then onto AGC as well. We're also very, very close to enabling support for Forge remotes on AGC, and announcements and documentation for this will follow shortly. But for now, I'll hand over to Joe, who's going to walk us through what Forge Compute have been up to.
Thanks, Sean. Is my video on? It is. Awesome. Okay. Hi, everyone. It's Joe Clark here. I've got a few minutes to talk you through some of the enhancements we've got cooking on the Forge backend. So let's dive in. So at Atlas Camp earlier this year, we announced an early access program for what we're now referring to as static web triggers. Now, these are web triggers that expose a public URL for your app that can be used to ingest data or trigger your app to perform specific actions. And unlike regular web triggers, static web triggers can only return a predefined response defined in your app manifest. In this way, static web triggers allow you to integrate with external systems for some use cases without granting your app permission to share customer data outside of the Atlassian platform. So static web triggers are now generally available. They're ready for anyone and everyone to use. And importantly, using static web triggers does not disqualify your app from the Runs on Atlassian designation, which is why we built it. Moving on, at Atlas Camp, we also announced a new 5-minute interval for Forge scheduled triggers. We announced that in preview in February. That's now also generally available. Using the new interval is super straightforward. You just go into your manifest and change the interval to 5 minutes. So it's all good to go. It's a great enhancement. We're not yet at a stage where the Forge scheduler can easily support any kind of complex scheduling use case. We don't yet have support for things like cron expressions or once-off schedules, but the 5-minute interval actually goes a long way towards allowing apps to simulate some more complex schedules by simply firing one trigger every 5 minutes and checking for any work to be processed. In fact, if you're interested in that use case and running more complex schedules inside a Forge app, check out this example from our resident Forge guru, Tim Pedersen, who's recently open sourced an example Forge app that does exactly that. It runs a single 5-minute scheduled trigger and then has an internal simulation mechanism to allow you to define more complex schedules that run on top of it. There's a QR code to the repo on the slide, or else look for the link in the webinar chat. All right, moving on to more good stuff. We've recently added the ability for you to customize the amount of memory allocated to your Forge functions when they're invoked. Previously, Forge had a hard-coded limit of 512 megabytes for every invocation. We know there are use cases that need more memory available to either load or process large files or manage large amounts of customer data in memory. So we're giving some of that control to you. You'll now be able to configure a memory allocation value between 128 megabytes at the minimum and 1024 megabytes at the upper limit for each function in your app. And you'll be able to do that configuration either globally for the entire app or on a per function basis. We are planning to introduce higher limits in the future, and that will come after Forge pricing is available, because obviously if you allocate more memory to the function, you get charged more for its usage. I encourage you to experiment with changing this value, especially while Atlassian is footing the bill, as tweaking the memory allocation on a Lambda function can result in improved performance, not only for memory-bound workloads, but also for CPU-bound and IO-bound workloads due to the way that resource allocation works in Lambda. Now let's change gears and take a look at what's coming up next. As new releases of Node come and go, Forge is keeping pace with this change. You may be aware that Node 18 reached end of life on the 30th of April earlier this year. And as a result, Node 18 will be unsupported on Forge starting next week on the 30th of June. If you have apps still running on Node 18, which you can verify by looking at the runtime name you have specified in your manifest, you should have already received an annoying Jira issue notification from me asking you to update your app. If you don't, Node 18 no longer receives any security updates. So continuing to use it could expose you and your customers to critical security vulnerabilities. We also reserve the right to begin undeploying or restricting functionality for the Node 18 runtime beyond the deprecation date of June 30th. And while sometimes we have to take your toys away, we also love to give you new shiny things as well. So to say sorry for taking away Node 18, we'll be giving you a shiny new Node 24 based runtime later this year once it is released in LTS by Node.js. In February at Atlas Camp, we announced our intention to launch a solution for running containerized code on Forge. I'm happy to report that our team is now full steam ahead on bringing Forge containers to life. If you want to learn more about our vision for Forge containers and what we want it to do, please watch my presentation from Atlas Camp 2025, which is available on the Atlassian Developer YouTube channel. There's a QR code there and also a link in the webinar chat. And I have to disclose, I'm not an engineer, I'm a product manager. So I had to do lots of research to figure out how to build a container. In fact, I've been traveling all over the world, looking at containers in Brussels, and I've even been looking at containers here in Australia, trying to figure out what are the requirements I need to give to the engineering team. I'm happy to report that things are progressing really well. The team is super excited about what we're working on, and I'm looking forward to be able to share more details with you soon. Now, unfortunately, we had to do a bit of roadmap Tetris to make sure we could deliver containers alongside our other commitments to the business. As a result, the first releases of Forge containers that are happening this year will be available through an invite-only pilot program that's designed to support apps that are participating in the development of Isolated Cloud. And those apps will be the ones that are used by customers who have signed up for the Isolated Cloud Early Access program. We're aiming to have a public early access program that anyone can try out for Forge containers in the first half of 2026. One of the reasons that containers is so exciting is the simplification it offers for moving a complex app from Connect to running natively on Forge. This is one of the core problems that we're optimizing for and something that we're really excited to solve. But I want to be upfront that the Forge container solution is opinionated. It's a serverless container engine. So just because it's containers, I can't guarantee that any existing Connect service or Connect container image you may have will be able to run on Forge with no changes. We do want to reduce the effort for you, but we might not be able to eliminate the effort completely. Please keep an eye on the Forge public roadmap for further updates. And with that, it's over to James, who's going to share some more details on Isolated Cloud. Toot toot.
Thanks, Joe. So my name is James, and I'm here to tell you a little bit more about Forge and how it relates to our newest cloud offering, the Isolated Cloud. So the best way to think about Isolated Cloud is a dedicated region for a specific customer with strict administrative controls for how data enters and leaves the environment. So it's built for enterprise customers in finance, technology, healthcare, and other regulated industries where they're extremely risk adverse about how their data is managed. And as you saw at Team 25, Atlassian intends to make Isolated Cloud available sometime during 2026. So what does this mean for apps? Isolation is a key component of Isolated Cloud, and this applies to the apps that run inside of Isolated as well. As one of our strongest standards for data lifecycle and administrative control runs on Atlassian, it sets the minimum bar for apps that can run in Isolated Cloud. All developers aiming to market their apps to isolated customers are required to adhere to this standard to ensure availability for these customers. Now, we know that this is challenging for some, as Forge cannot support all workloads and use cases of every app today. And to this, we've accelerated investment all across the Forge platform primitives, such as building containers and SQL, as well as speeding up our investments in closing the gap between Forge and Connect capabilities, such as user impersonation and product extensibility. So you might also be wondering, what are the differences between the Forge platform for commercial, isolated, and government clouds? Well, apart from the obvious compliance differences with government cloud, it's our aim to make sure that the app platform is the same across all cloud hosting types. And it is our vision that app developers can build a single app and leverage that investment wherever a customer needs your app deployed. And we'll be working towards this goal throughout 2026. And I'd like to hand over to Chandala to talk a little bit more about the developer console.
Thanks, James. Hi, everyone. This is Chandana, and I'm mainly looking after the developer console. So yeah, super excited to share all the updates. We have recently released custom metrics. We do know that developers today have a standard set of metrics in the developer console, right? Which are invocation metrics, API metrics, cache, and different storage related observability metrics. But yeah, we understood the need for developers to set up their own business metrics and to sort out their use cases. So this is we are providing custom metrics for solving that need, and developers can choose to sign up in the form as shared in the comment box. Yeah. Next slide. We are super excited to share that we are working on feature flags for developers, and we are going to provide two capabilities with feature flags, which is criteria-based rollout. As part of criteria-based rollout, developers can choose to enable features for their customers based on certain criteria such as site, version, license, edition, and account ID. We are also providing custom criteria because we do know that developers would want to set up their own filters, right? For example, number of Jira issues in an app, post which they can enable certain features. So these are the features with respect to criteria-based rollout. We are also providing percentage rollout, which is nothing but developers can enable features for certain percentage of customers. For example, 50% customers of certain sites, etc. This is all being provided with a feature flag SDK, and you can expect the release to happen around early September. So in case developers are keen to know what the entire flow is looking like and are interested to sign up for feature flags, we have shared a link in the comments. So yeah, as Adam mentioned, Forge pricing is one of the key initiatives which we are working on. And in order to support the final pricing announcement that is going to happen at the end of the month or in the early July timeframe, we are sharing a cost estimator, which is nothing but you could input your usage values which you see in Connect apps, or as a new developer, you could input your own values and see how the estimates could look like in Forge apps. The cost estimator could be shared via a public link as well. So we'll be giving a copy link feature, and this cost estimator could be accessed via the docs or the developer console. We are also transforming the current usage page in the developer console to also show the costs that would be incurred from Jan 1st. So this is all an estimate and the prices could change in between and we'll inform. But yeah, this is how the cost dashboard could look like, which will show the month to date costs, like what are the costs incurred till today in a particular month. We'll also show the forecasted cost, which is nothing but we will try to do a linear projection of the usage for the end of the month and translate that usage into costs. We are also adding one more feature, which is a cumulative resource usage chart when you go to the view details section. With that, you will be able to understand at what day have you crossed the free threshold. Yeah. Now, coming to developer space, this is a concept that we are going to introduce around September. So this is very useful to group your apps into the right higher level entity. This developer space would be very crucial to generate the invoices for your apps. So you can consider developer space as something like vendor profile itself, but we are extending that concept to include the private apps and the development apps into that entity. So yes, all the apps that you build, right, are considered for
pricing. But yes, you will incur charges only when you reach the free, when you surpass the free threshold of your apps. So yeah, that's the update with respect to developer space. The final aspect is pricing would start from Jan 1st, right? We do understand that we need to provide payment method options via self-serve UX. We need to show all the invoices you're generating each month. We would need to provide platform alerts also. We would need to notify accordingly when you reach certain percentage of threshold for your usage. We are also working on incorporating dunning flows, as in what happens if a developer doesn't pay the bill or the credit card has not triggered the payment, right? We are working on these dunning flows. We are also exploring app level resource usage controls to enable developers to restrict the usage if the developer has fixed their mind that they don't want to cross the free threshold for certain apps. That would be possible, and we are exploring this route. Yeah. That's it from Developer Console. Passing it on to Jakub.
Thanks, Chanana. My name is Jakub, and I will share with you an update about the Jira extensibility. Recently, you have finished a few things, mostly missing gaps like time tracking, which is available right now, and events and REST APIs are supported. Then we work on the new Navigator accessibility, which is available there as well. More exciting, I think, is the command palette, because command palette is available everywhere in Jira. So thanks to this, users are able to invoke Forge wherever they are. And 2 new migration paths for dashboard items and workflow modules are available as well. And I think the big thing, the missing thing, the zip conditions right now, there is a feature parity between Forge and Connect, and it is a faster, more secure backend implementation. A few things are in progress, including GI issue panel improvements. Now project admins will be able to pin a panel to all issues in the given project. And also apps will be able to create a UI for users for more advanced configuration. Forge custom fields on JSM are coming. We already have released Forge custom fields support on JSM portal create view. We are working on Forge custom fields on JSM portal view support and anonymous users support. Custom app events. This is great because it will enable apps to interact within each other. The apps will be able to say to send events without the payload. So coming soon, we expect you can expect it in summer. Forge automation actions. This is a big project. Right now, early access program is open. From July, we want to have a few first apps on the marketplace, and after this, we will add more apps to the marketplace. So you can expect more apps with Forge automation actions coming soon. And UI modifications in Forge JSM. This is, I think, our biggest project. Right now, the core is there, so we have moved UI modifications from Jira to JSM, and now we are adding more and more field support. You can expect a preview by the end of the year. And that's it. Thanks. Over to Isha.
Thanks, Jakub. So hi everyone, I'm Isha, a product manager in the ecosystems team, and today I'm excited to share the progress that we've made in enhancing Confluence extensibility within Forge. So we recently went to general availability for macro auto conversion, and this feature allows Confluence to automatically convert recognized links into the appropriate macros, making content creation faster and documents more interactive. So this was previously exclusive to Connect apps, but with this improved version, it now aligns with smart links, offers greater flexibility and control, and supports multiple macros for the same link. So you can choose the experience that best fits your needs. We've also launched new Confluence web items in Forge, specifically page banners and background scripts. So with page banners, it lets apps display important messages or notifications at the top of a Confluence page, helping you communicate key information or provide contextual guidance right where users need it. And with background scripts, we allow apps to run logic behind the scenes, so monitoring events, performing operations, or syncing data in real time, without adding any visible UI, so it ensures a seamless user experience. Looking ahead, we're working hard to deliver even more capabilities. So there's a lot on the list there. But we've got expanded Forge events, which help enable apps to respond to a wider range of product events for richer automation and integrations. We've got display conditions, which gives developers fine-grained control over when and where Forge modules appear, based on flexible and context-aware rules. We've got anonymous user support, so allowing Forge apps to engage with users who aren't logged in, broadening accessibility and use cases. We then have CQL filtering for Forge macros, so supporting dynamic content filtering to make macros even more powerful and customizable. We've got custom content migration tools, so providing APIs and tools to migrate custom content types from Connect to Forge, ensuring a smooth transition for existing apps. And last but not least, we've got custom content properties, so enabling storage and the retrieval of custom metadata on content, so apps can deliver richer, more interactive experiences. I'll now pass it on to a virtual version of Sushant. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Hey everyone, I'm Sushant, a product manager for Forge Storage. So today I'm really excited to share that Forge SQL is now generally available. So this has been a highly requested feature for Forge, and this marks a huge milestone for Forge hosted storage. So if you're not familiar with Forge SQL already, it is a MySQL-based hosted storage service for your apps to use. Once your app adopts this service, the platform will automatically create databases per installation and also take care of all of the security and the scalability considerations. The service works with standard ANSI syntax, and as part of the GA release, Forge SQL also fully supports data residency. There are also some new observability metrics that are available on Developer Console to get more information about any errors or more information also about the schemas. So if you'd like more details about Forge SQL, please check out the documentation on developer.atlassian.com. There is a tutorial available for you to get started quickly, as well as more details about any limitations and considerations. So while the GA is available now, we're not done yet. So as we continue optimizing the service, there's some new great features that we're working on at the moment. So some of these include support for atomic batch requests, which, as the name outlines, enables developers to batch requests in an atomic way. Another highly requested capability is support for binary protocol to interact with Forge SQL, which allows developers to connect to the database using their own drivers or ORMs. And lastly, we are also optimizing the schema management solution that we have to make it easier for apps to roll out schema changes to a fleet of installations through updated platform flows and more observability metrics available on console. So you will hear more about these capabilities over the next 6 months or so. To close out, I just want to say a huge thanks to all of the partners and developers and customers that worked with us and gave us feedback during the early stages of Forge SQL. It made a huge difference in getting to the GA release and make sure it meets the requirements of all of our users. So I want to say thanks again, and we look forward to continually working with you as we make the service even better. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sushant. I'll join again and tell everyone about Rovo and Teamwork Graph. Try and be quick because I know we're late in time. Firstly, a small but mighty feature is we've shipped the ability for Forge actions to be used in the sort of customer-created no-code agents, which is really cool and powerful. It means customers can mix and match their agents with Forge actions and the Atlassian built ones and the Rovo knowledge. But yeah, unfortunately with great power comes great responsibility. So there is a new scope required to unlock that capability. But definitely check it out. Next up in the Teamwork Graph world, we are looking at the ability to build custom smart links using Forge. So if you have an app that is the source of truth of something and something that can be linked to, Definitely check out this EAP coming next month. So yeah, you can create smart links for whatever you like. And then sort of the big thing we're working on as well as that is teamwork graph connectors. So previously known as the Rovo connectors that Atlassian built, the 50 Rovo connectors. We're now opening up the ability to sync data into the teamwork graph via Forge. And once you do, that data becomes available in search and RovoChat and agents and everything else. And so, if you want to put your app sort of side by side with the main Atlassian apps, definitely check that EAP out. It'll be coming later on in next quarter. And then finally from me, just an update on where we're at with events and queues. Firstly, we are shipping very soon, as in the next couple of weeks, some big improvements to async events. So we will be introducing at least once delivery, and the sort of reliability and retention around async events, acting on some feedback. We are also bringing in concurrency controls. So you'll be able to, set a key on your queues or events, and then set the max concurrency for those queues. So great for handling high volume operations. As I said, both of those coming in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye on the changelog. And then what we're moving on to next is FIFO queues as well, because I know there's lots of use cases out there that are really looking for that guaranteed ordering. And so early days on that one, we're still sort of exploring what that solution will look like, but just wanted to put it out there that that's on the roadmap coming next. So that's it from me. And I think lastly over to Vicky.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam, for that. Hi, everyone. My name is Vicky. I'm the product manager for Forge UI. So I'd love to share with you the progress that we made with our UI experience. So recently, you might have seen Atlassian's new visualization charts at our recent Team 25. We've actually recently released this to general availability within Forge UI. So this features 7 new chart types, such as bar, donut, line, pie, and stack charts. These are the very same charts that you see on Atlassian Home, and currently features colors in alignment with all of our new design refreshes. Next, we have the introduction of our frame component. I saw there was a bit of chat about it in the chat as well. So we've taken a step forward, unifying the Forge development experience. Previously, you had to sort of choose between UI kit simplicity or opt in for custom UI for customization. The frame component allows you to integrate custom UI within your UI kit app and allows that, eliminates that dilemma. We've also released internationalization to general availability, which allows a translation to any languages, making your apps accessible across the world. Now, the journey hasn't stopped here. We're continuing to grow Forge UI and support your innovation. So here's a bit of a sneak peek of what is coming up next. So as Forge apps become more powerful and continue to innovate, and a lot of you are migrating over to the Forge platform, we're looking to provide bigger and more customizable UI experiences on par with our own products. So we're looking to launch an EAP for a full page UI experience, as well as launching full page Confluence modals to assist that migration. Next, we're also working on releasing our Forge real-time feature, which will allow you to publish events from resolvers as well as our UI, simultaneously subscribing to those events from the front end. So this feature will really allow live updates, notifications for your apps, which are now all possible on Forge UI apps. So that's all from me. I'll pass it back to Helen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vicky. And to the rest of the team for sharing all the updates. So now we're going to use the last few minutes that we have to answer a few questions. Thanks for dropping those into the Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and pull those up, and we'll get started with the first question. Okay, so we've got a bunch of good ones. Okay, so we have 2 questions for you, Adarsh, coming from Frank and Mark. So for very small vendors, it is hard to get compliant to SOC 2 and or ISO 27001 with all the regulatory requirements. Will Atlassian offer something for this case, for example, partnering with Vanta?
Yep, cool. Thanks, Helen. Thanks, Frank and Mark, for raising this. I think this is one of the reasons why we are invested so much in Forge and runs on Atlassian to help especially the smaller vendors get compliance out of the box. As I mentioned earlier, with runs on Atlassian, 30% of those controls are taken care for you. So in that way, the lift is slightly lower. In terms of what we are doing with Vanta, we're actually partnering with them. So there is a link that I will share in the chat, which you can go to, and you get a discounted price with Vanta to work with Atlassian. We are closely working with them and partner with them. So make sure that you mention that you're an Atlassian marketplace partner, and you'll get roughly around 30% discount for the services that Vanta provides.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you for that. Moving on to the next question that is for Shandana. What payment methods will be available to pay the Forge usage invoices? This is also coming from Mark.
Thanks for the question, Mark. So in the UX, there is a self-serve option for credit card and PayPal, but for products, right, different payment methods such as debit cards are also supported. We will explore how to incorporate it in the self-serve UX, and we will share a list of all the payment methods supported well in advance.
Perfect. Thank you. Cool. This next question is for Sean, also coming from Mark. When will the DevOps Forge modules be available for partners to use? The only module I currently cannot migrate. This for Mark, this is a currently module that he cannot migrate from Connect.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark, for the question. So the DevOps Forge modules are actively in development at the moment. I don't have time in handy for these, but what I will do is I'll see if we can get those added to the Forge public roadmap afterwards, so you can track that and monitor it there. But happy days, it is something that we're actively looking at and developing at the moment.
Perfect. Thanks, Sean. Cool. Moving on to our next question from Prabhu. This one's going to be for you, Adam. Prabhu's saying they are currently at 15K users in the enterprise plan. If they were to develop for their usage, will it be chargeable? It will not be an app that's listed on the marketplace.
Yeah, so the answer to that is potentially. So, all apps will be subject to Forge pricing, not just marketplace apps. And so if your apps are exceeding that free tier, then Forge pricing will apply to them as well.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying. And then next question, we're going over to James. This one will be for you. And it's being asked by Mateus. Referring to the cross-context function of marketplace apps, will the apps that run on Atlassian be allowed to integrate with each other so that the integration won't be considered as a data egress? If so, when is it planned and under what conditions? Will this be apps from the same vendor only?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mateus. We consider the egress for runs on Atlassian to be egress external to our platform. So the long and short of the question here is that if you build a cross context app that says talks to Jira, Confluence, and say one of the Atlassian home apps, then we wouldn't consider that to be data egress, and it would be compatible with runs on Atlassian. Now, I think where we need to be a little bit careful is where data being shared, across multiple different apps across those contexts, depending on what the security posture is of those apps. So, for example, a runs on Atlassian app sharing data with a non-runs on Atlassian app, that's something that we need to look into. But you also asked, when would we be delivering something like this? We're sort of thinking about, there's actually quite a lot of effort going on internally to make our cross-context apps possible. And we're expecting to have something in the next 6 to 12 months in GA.
Perfect. Okay, we have time for one more question. So James, don't go too far. This next one's for you. This is coming from Christoph. When do you plan to have object storage in GA?
That's a good question, Christoph. So when we launched the Forge, it was the object. Was it cache or object storage?
Object storage.
Object storage. Sorry. So just like containers, we had to do a little bit of roadmap Tetris just to really lean into isolated cloud. So this is going to GA a little bit later than what we would like, what we would like for the commercial environment. At this point, we're expecting sometime between early to mid 2026.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight, James. So that is actually all the time that we have for today. If we didn't get to your question, I'm so sorry, but you can still post it on the developer community and the team will address it there afterwards. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. We enjoyed having you for this installment of the Forge Roadmap webinar. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Until next time.